So the next thing we're going to talk about is JK Armament has 3 different styles of suppressors, and we're going to break each one of those down and what they're specifically built and used for. So the first can we're going to talk about is the VersaX can. And this can, this one, I'm going to end up spending the most amount of time on, and I'll explain why in a second. This is one of the lightest aluminum cans that are out on the market. This can goes down from 9mm all the way up to 300 Win Mag. The price point on this can, this is the cheapest can that they make. And when I say cheapest, I don't mean in quality, but I mean in price. So where would somebody use a suppressor like this? Oftentimes, if I'm out and about on the countryside, I want as light of a gun as possible. So as an example, if I go out carrying 300 Blackout, yes, I've got very hard use suppressors by JK Armament, but they're a little heavier. And if I'm not worried about getting into a sustained fight and dumping 30 rounds out of a magazine really quickly, then I want the lightest thing possible that's still going to be able to perform. Now, this generally would fall in, let's just say, a hunting line, or a guy who goes to the range, shoots a certain amount of rounds, and what they're looking at round count is once you have gotten the can, I would say, if you're talking about 5.56 or 300 Win Mag, once you got up to about 10, the goal would be let the can cool back down to ambient temperature. Now for 9mm, it's full auto rated. For the subgun side of the house, this thing is full auto rated. And it also comes with a lifetime guarantee. So even if you kind of screw it up a little bit, like, you're probably gonna be okay. But I will tell you this, let's talk about durability for a second. So I was sent this can, it was before night class, and I threw it on my gun and went out there and just started hammering down on the can. I noticed the can was changing a little bit of color, so I took a picture of it real quick and I said, hey, listen, you know, this can's really smoking. It's doing its job, but I mean, is this normal? And what happened was I was supposed to have been sent an SBRX can, which is a hard use can. So I basically did, I would say, within a 10-minute period, 4 28 round mags out of my gun. And then I did it 3 more mags after that. What ended up happening was I didn't destroy the can, but you're not going to be able to really see. Let me see if I can step out and you can use that light. You might be able to actually see a little bit of where the baffles are starting to disintegrate, but the can still held up. That's what my point is. My point is that this is a lightweight, durable can. Now, what eventually was going to happen is I was going to erode all the baffles because they're already starting to erode. And I abused this can in a manner that it wasn't supposed to. So like I was saying earlier, for those that are going hunting, for those that aren't doing a crazy amount of shooting and you want as lightweight as possible, think about it like this. Most hunters, they zero their gun, which is usually like 4 rounds, because they had it zeroed from last year, unless they did something like drop it or whatnot. So most of the time, they fire a few rounds out of it, and then they go off into the wood line. And these cans are great. I put them on my 45-70. I have them on my 44 Magnums, which are lever guns, and I don't need anything crazy because I'm not running them and cooking them like that. So just a couple things to think about as far as attributes go. I had already covered the calibers that we talked about from 9mm already all the way up to Win Mag. The next can that we're going to talk about is known as the RCX can, and what will that kind of handle for abuse. The RCX can, that's what I have right here. This is a combination of titanium and 7075 aluminum. So this is a mid-range price can as far as JK Armament's concerned. So you saw the VersaX. That's the lowest price point. This is a mid-range price point. This is going to withstand a little bit more abuse than what the VersaX can is for. This is a specific 30 cal can. So when we kind of break it down, you can run obviously 5.56 out of it. You can run 300 blackout. That's where I have it, and that's where I find that this can really shines. It is a great hybrid to where if you're going to cook the can a little bit more, and that's what it really comes down to. It comes down to abuse, which in this particular case happens to be heat. So I like running it on 300 blackout personally. It's lightweight. It's a little bit lighter than the SBRX cans. And because I'm not putting that much abuse into it, I kind of fancy this a little bit more. So I get that balance between it as well. And of course, depending upon what you, the user, are thinking about, what kind of gun that this is going to go on, maybe you save yourself a little bit of money, get a mid-range price point can from JK that you're throwing it on guns that you're running subsonic anyway. So it doesn't really matter to be carrying around something heavier that isn't really going to do you much good. So again, just something to think about as far as can selection. And remember, these cans are modular, so you can add or subtract baffles right here. I find that the combination, whether I'm running this on 5.56, whether I'm running it on 308, 300 blackout, I find that the sweet spot for this particular can, and of course, most of mine, I'm running on 10.5 guns, is 5 baffles. Now, you can see that this one's a flatter nose right here, and then you saw basically the fork earlier, or no, this is the wrong one. There's so many cans around here. This is the fork right here, which helps on flash if that's something that's a concern for you. The last can we're going to talk about is the SBRX can. This can is what you would consider a hard use can. So this is the highest price point that JK Armament has, and this can you can do like anything else. Go hammer down on it, not have to worry about it. I have it set up on this Noveske 10.5 right here. So for me, I'm running it on their War Eagle, which I really like. It is a really nice break. You don't have to really worry about clocking it in any particular direction. But this particular can, it's made out of 17.4 stainless with a T1 Gal 4V titanium grade S. So to the nerds out there, damn man, it's like Patrick Swayze hit another guy. I hope you love it. Again, running 223 all the way up to 300 Win Mag. Again, it's at a higher price point, but everything as you're starting to see is based on what exactly are you going to do with it. I kind of equate it to scopes on rifles. I have some scopes that are $4,500. And the reason why is they're on guns that are capable of shooting over a mile. So with that, I want to make sure I've got something to match that particular gun. However, when it comes to 22 caliber guns or some other guns that I have for my son, then I try to marry that scope based on what that gun's capability is. So I might have a Burris, or a lot of times I have a hunting grade not hollow sun, but a Vortex on some of those guns. So I try to marry the scope to the actual gun. This isn't really too much different. I'm trying to marry the suppressor to that gun. What exactly am I going to do with it? Now, if you've seen some of the other videos, there's a lot of different mounting solutions. I showed you basically JK's brake system with their suppressor. But there's about, and it probably is more by now, but back in the day, it was 12 major companies that did brakes that, of course, were able to interface with JK's cans. So bottom line is, if you've got or fancy certain types of muzzle devices out there, then you don't have to break those off your gun and get rid of it. All you're going to do is change out the back end. And remember, these things are still modular as well. Whether you have the SBRX, whether you have the Versa X can or the RCX can, you can change and pick what and how many baffles you want. So they also do a thing. It's probably not going to make too much sense for me to say it, but I'll say it anyways and kind of explain it. But they do toners as well. And the toner's really interesting because our ears hear certain pitches, and based on this toner, it takes the space of a baffle, but it can really change the harmonics of what we actually hear from being the user or off to the right or behind or off to the left. So the cool thing is you can break this down and you can set it up the way you want to. So hopefully this video will help you out just a little bit in regards to what can is best for you. The way I look at it is, what gun is it going on and what is it being used for? And that's gonna help me select a can. And by getting a few cans at a lower price point, it'll allow you to get a few more suppressors. So again, just something to think about.